Hello and welcome to the All About Pigeons podcast. We have a very special episode for you today, so stick around. Today we're talking with Kevin Monroe. He is a judge for judging roller pigeons and their competitive flies. He's been flying rollers for 45 years and judging rollers for over 30 years. He's a member of the NBRC, the National Birmingham Roller Club, as well as a local club, the Lone Star Spinners, located in Texas. Kevin, thanks for coming on and talking roller pigeons with us today.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure.
So let's get the intro into how you got into pigeons, and then we'll talk about how you got into judging the roller pigeons.
Yeah, so I started out at about 11 years old. I had a friend of mine on my Pee Wee baseball team. He and I become friends, and he had a couple of pigeons that he had homed into a little wire cage mounted right underneath the eave of his house. He showed them to me, and it was the king and the princess was their name. Still remember their names, as funny as that is. But they would fly around all on top of the house and up to the telephone lines and back again. And I just thought it was the coolest thing. And so I built me a loft, I guess you'll call it, out of 4 sheets of plywood around and made a box and 2 on top. And I just moved a little piece of plywood open enough for me to walk in there and water and feed them. And that was my first loft. And we went and caught pigeons from out underneath the bridge and borrowed a neighbor's ladder. You know, we put it back, of course, but we borrowed it late at night and would go up to the bridges that wasn't too far off and made our rounds to 2 bridges that we could get to walking. That's how I got started right there, is catching pigeons underneath a bridge.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, it's easier to catch them at nighttime when they're not all active.
Oh, yeah.
How did you get into doing judging for the roller pigeons?
It was out of necessity, really. You know, we started in a local club back in 1986 with a guy named Gary Tollett. He was the president. Sam DeMamio, some of you roller guys might remember him. They had a club, Texas Roller Club. They flew here and there and had fun flies, and there wasn't really no judging there, but there was a need for it. Club kind of died away when Gary fell out as a leadership role. He kind of dropped out. His wife had got sick, and Sam and this other fella named Bill Dunson put it back together in 1989. At that point, we had some guys that was real energetic and getting going in the competition direction on a regular basis. So we just started all judging together, and the seniors like Sam and Bill would compare their scores with ours, and we all kind of got on the same page of what we was looking for. It's kind of where it started. All through the 90s, you know, up in about 97, a guy named Rick Delahaye, he had placed, I think, second in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And he came through and judged our area in 1996. So in 97, he invited me to his place up there and showed me their local club and how they judged and how they had a certification program that they used up there that, you know, you had to meet certain criteria and you get certified. Well, I asked him and another leader of their club to come down. You know, they lived up in Arkansas, and I asked them, you know, if I paid their way, our club did, would they come down here and get us started, you know, in the certification program? And that was 97. Sure enough, they did. A few of us got certified, and that's where it all started at, you know, getting going that direction. Started judging for others, you know, 2000, you know, from 2000 on up. I've judged all over the United States.
When a club gets started, specifically a roller club, does the NBRC kind of give you guys guidelines to follow? Because I'm sure that the judging has to be pretty much across the board, right?
The judging currently is in need of a certification program, and hopefully one day we'll get together with officers and stuff and get something going in that direction. But yeah, we follow a set of rules that the World Cup puts out and the NBRC, and they kind of mimic each other. The NBRC tries to kind of follow along with the World Cup the best that we can. You know, there's a few differences here or there, but predominantly they're the same set of rules as far as how many flyers it takes to get a qualifier. Now that's different from the NBRC because it takes, you know, 10 kits, 10 teams. You know, each person can fly 2 teams each if they can, but it takes 10 of them flown to get a qualifier. In the World Cup, it takes 7 people. It don't matter how many kits you fly. Well, it does. You cannot fly more than 2, but they want 7 people for 1 qualifier. You know, it's a little bit harder to accomplish, you know, whereas you can do it with 5 people flying 2 kits each in the NBRC.
So can you break down how it works for as far as the 11 bird fly and the 20 bird fly?
Yep, absolutely. So it was around 90, I think it was around 97 again, 98 right in there. Art Hopkins was the president, and he wanted to get something going, a different competition, because some of the guys down south, over in the Carolinas and stuff, they competed with what they back then, I think it was a 12 bird, but it may have been 11 bird. But it was judged specifically for the performance of individual birds. And so we looked out in the 11 bird for quality of the spin and depth entering into the row and exiting out of the row, and then the return back to the team and the performance in between. It's all part of it. It has to be, superior, it has to be above average to even get on the scoreboard with 11 bird. Now, and that, not like I said, it came into play in 98. Art went out there and brought it into our system. He was the president at the time of the MBRC, and he brought it into the MBRC, and it ran conjunction with a 20 bird. At the time, all the way up until the last few years, you could only, if you wanted to fly an 11 bird, you only had an option of flying two teams. If you wanted to fly two and 11 bird, well, you couldn't fly any in the 20. If you wanted to fly the 20, two and the 20, then you couldn't fly any 11, or you could fly one and one. You had them three options, is the way that what you could fly in. Here recently, they changed it and made it where we could separate it and have two different flies altogether with our regions. You can have two teams in each one now. So that was a big, big bonus, not only for the people, for the birds, and for the club, the income. It increased it probably double, I would imagine, because you could put two more teams entered, and you pay for each team you enter. So the 20 bird, I don't want to be jumping all around here, but let me catch you up on the 20 bird here. The 20 bird is judged on birds performing in unison. They have to roll a minimum of five at a time. They have to roll adequate to the judge's standard. That's the minimum that they can score. And they have a point system going from a 1.0 for quality. They have from 1.0 to 2.0. So you can go 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, et cetera, all the way down to 2.0 as far as getting a quality multiplier. Okay, now they also have a multiplier known as the depth multiplier, and it's the same scale, 1.0 to 2.0, all the numbers in between. And a common one used is say, 1.3, you'll see a 1.3 quality given to a flyer and say a 1.3 or 1.4 depth. It's usually really close in the depth. And so you times them two together, you get a total multiplier bonus. And you take that and you times it times the raw score. So in the 20 bird, like I said before, they got to roll five at least, but they can roll as many as 20 being a full turn. I've been seen maybe once that I can remember on a national level, recorded as a 20 bird turn. But so 5 to 9, you get one times your raw score. So if you had 10 breaks, you would have 10 points. Okay, so that's going to be on the raw score. So if you're going with birds breaking five at a time and you have 10 5 bird breaks, that's going to be 50 points. So the judge, as he's judging, he'll have a scribe, and the scribe will be writing down whatever the judge calls out. So he'll call out, remember, it goes 5 birds minimum that have to go at one time to make it to the score sheet, and they got to be adequate to the judge's standard. So the judge will call out 5, 6, give me a 9. Give me a 7, and that's the birds as they're breaking in the air in unison. He's calling them out to the scribe. So all them numbers are 9 or less. So you'll add them up. Say you come up with 65 points that are birds 5 to 9 is how many that was added up. Now that'll be your 65 points raw score. You'll take that and you'll multiply that, and you say you didn't get anything else. You take that 65 raw and you multiply it by the bonus factor. Now that's your quality and your depth times each other, and you come up with a bonus factor. The bonus factors times your raw score, and that gives you the final score. Okay, back to the score sheet. As the judge is calling out to the scribe, if he calls out anything from a 10 to a 14 bird break, it's times 2, and that'd be times 2, and it's going to be your raw score. And then the same with the 15 to 19, it's going to be times 3. So you're wanting bigger breaks in unison to get the bigger points. And then all that comes up, with your raw score. And again, it goes times your bonus factor and gives you the total score. And then a judge had some comments at the bottom.
So the 11 bird sounds like it's more of individual birds, and then the 20 is a team. So do guys have different kits? Like this kit works better as a team. This is going to be my whatever 20 bird, and then you just kind of put all your aces in the 11 bird. Is
So that's a really good question. So a lot of us divide our birds into cock and hen teams as they get older, especially. And when you're selecting for your 11 bird competition, some people only have a 20 bird team. So they'll take their 11 best out of their 20 bird team and fly them as 11 bird. It's not real common for somebody to have an ultimate 11 bird and an ultimate 20 bird, two different teams. It's not common for them not to pick the very best out of their 20 to showcase over here in the 11. That's what you see more than not.
and you were talking about some of the depth and the frequency and the type of the roll. How do you judge, like, what's a clean roll look like? Is it just a speed thing, like a really fast rotation, or
Man, if you could just vision a 10-foot, 3-inch metal fence post, that is the ultimate spin 10 foot. Just looks like a straight sleeve. The bird's is so balled up. It just looks like a straight fence post poured out of the sky. Just zip straight down. You don't see no wings sticking out. He balls up like the size of a tennis ball, baseball, and this straight. The ultimate for me is what I call a blur out. He just looked like a shrunken blur. He say he's about the size of the softball as he's going into it, and he shrinks down to like the size of a racquetball, and then you can see him come back out as he's coming out of the spin. It's just that is the ultimate for me. Is the shrunken blur.
because these are the multiplying factors. If someone's really trying to get a high score, so they got to be rolling in the first place. Like you said, there's actually a minimum of five, right? Five rolls on the 20 bird.
Yep.
And then you got, like you're saying, the quality of it. So what's more important, depth, quality,
Well, it
speed?
depends on who you ask. For points wise, to gain points, you want kit chemistry. You want your birds working together, big breaks, and often. You want them breaking up in the 15 birds and more range. The more of them you get, that triples your score. Each one of them, a 15 bird break is 45 points, and you get four of them. You do the math. So let's back up. Let's go 14 bird breaks. That's only times two. See, one bird makes the difference right there. The bigger the breaks, the more frequent the breaks, the higher the score. And if you got your team working the whole 20 minutes and they're breaking big, the judge will give you high multipliers. They really like the big breaks and frequency. When you'll see a bird that's a team that's worked well 20 minutes, he's going to get good multipliers, and it shows. So usually you get that, and you got half the battle won. If you get big kit chemistry, yeah, that's what we're looking for.
And this is a performing bird, and like we're talking about these birds doing really amazing things really fast, and that's got to be tricky to judge itself. But is there a body style or wing type or just this general size of, when you look at a bird outside of it flying, just you're looking at them in a cage, can you tell if that bird's going to have what it takes to be a good roller, or it could be any kind of type, shape, conformation?
Some people might be able to go and look at a bird on a perch and tell you, a lot of times you can know if a bird is a row down, if he's got an issue or something. Sometimes I can catch that by looking at a bird on a perch, but as far as being an ultimate performer, something, a wing type, or they come in all different shapes and sizes. Our Birmingham roller, it has no standard, for our Birmingham rollers, because they're so all over the place. Some of them are long casts that look like a thoroughbred horse, lean and tall and sleek, and the other ones are short, cobby, wide chest, got a tight tail. You hold them in your hand like a racing homer, the head facing your chest, the feet tucked underneath his tail, spread his wings out, and that tail is so tight, one pin tail. Some of them are like that, and other ones, my birds have got a loose tail in the hand. Their tail's probably 2.5 inches wide, looking down at it. It's loose. It's not, tight. What do I prefer? I prefer that tight one for my racing homers, like a one pin tail. that looks the best. I didn't breed for it. My birds have a looser tail in the hand. They kind of got a sleek look to them. And families again, I mentioned families. It all starts in the breeding loft. You breed toward the spin. This is what I came up with. This is the birds that I use. They all kind of mimic each other. As far as having a picture perfect bird, I got, I like the old Hardesty birds, Joe Rowe birds. They're cobby chest and feel great in the hand, and man, they can pack the roll. I wasn't able to do, what other people has done with that family. And again, the families fit, what you can do. You need to find birds, if you're starting out, find birds that work for you and your schedule and your climate, your area, because it's different everywhere.
That's interesting. We spoke with Gabe Glenn earlier, and we were talking about different bloodlines of rollers, and that was exactly what he said. He said, find something that works with your style of management in your area.
Yeah, that's a good guy. Gabe's a good guy. I'm glad I met him. He was one of the members in the Ohio group that sponsored the convention this last year. We got to go to his house, and his birds put on a real good show, and he and his wife both were just super nice folks.
Very cool. We got to see his birds go. That's nice.
Yeah, it was awesome.
So you mentioned too, and I never thought about this, that the judge is talking to a scribe, which I don't know. I never thought of, but I mean, yeah, it makes sense. The guy can't be looking down at a notebook and keeping tally. He's got to have his head up in the sky the whole time.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
it's such a fast thing to judge. What other kind of challenges make it difficult when you're judging something like this kind of fast performing bird?
You got the predators like anybody else does. That's real challenging when you get hit. Bad weather, the weather makes all the difference in the world. You got 20 minutes on the clock. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but time is always, something you have to look at. You got to fly a minimum of 15. And if you get hit by a predator, you can call a timeout. You got a 5-minute timeout for bad weather or predator attack. And anything that happens to your birds after that bad weather or that predator messes with them, it don't affect you, your score. Pretty much whatever you got up to that point in your points, you won't lose them. Your birds do have to fly a minimum of 15 minutes. So you can have that 5-minute timeout, and then your birds have to fly another 10 minutes in adjacent to the 5-minute timeout.
Are flyers allowed to turn up another kid if like a BOP comes through and scatters them? Can they just put another one up, or they just got to wait 5 minutes and hopefully they get back to it?
They don't have to wait 5 minutes. They can call time back in at any time. And if they call time back in at any time and they have birds scattered, then the judge is required to judge the biggest group of birds that are together. Like say you got a 20 bird team and you got 8 birds together and the rest of them are all chaotic everywhere. He has to judge them 8 birds right there. And any birds that come back in are allowed to come back in. But that group right there never changes. He can't go from this 8 to this 8 over here to get together. He has to stay with the original 8 that he starts with, or the original biggest group that he starts with. He has to judge them birds, and as they come back together, they'll just continue to get judged.
Well, that could definitely hurt your score then if you you lose all those numbers like that all at once.
Oh yeah, and it messes with their minds. They come out flying. Sometimes if they've been hit hard, they'll be coming out flying fast and looking over their shoulder left and right. Where's he coming from? And trying to get up, trying to get way up, to get some distance between him and them.
Yeah, I've seen that before. They'll just go and become dots in the sky. And how could you judge something like that? It's so high up.
Oh, you can't. If you can't see the wing beat, you can't judge them. Some people claim they can, but I can't, and I won't. I won't judge them if I can't see their wing beats. You can't tell the quality of the spin. You can see movement. You can tell they're breaking up there, but you can't tell the quality of the spin. If they're driven up, I've seen a hawk stay underneath them, drive them up out of sight, lose a team. I've seen it countless times.
Outside of BOPs, are there any notable moments or surprises you've had during a judging experience?
Police coming up wanting to know what we're looking at. That's pretty amusing. We got pictures of that back in the late 80s. Yeah. Anything, no, I can't say as I have, just that's pretty devastating in itself, man. And it's part of all the pigeon world, we just got to raise enough, to feed them and to compete.
Yeah, that's a hard truth right there. Through selective breeding, all facets of it, whether it's racing or fancy or rolling, it's all about selective breeding to get to this point where we're having birds do these amazing things. And especially with the rollers, I feel like they've really become a lot more dramatic just in such a short period of time. You're getting some really, really high performing birds, but overall, like even in the hobby itself, what do you see the future of the roller pigeon hobby?
I see with the right direction and a certified judging system put into place, I see it excelling. I see it growing and thriving. But there's going to have to be some common ground with the judging because the judges just got too big of difference in their perspective of what's right and what's not, and awarding of these the multipliers and what deserves this multiplier and what deserves that multiplier. It's all over the board as how different judges see it right now. That's going to have to be addressed, I think, to gain ground in the future.
Any advice you give to any aspiring judges for judging rollers?
Get underneath a team every time you can, even your own. We calling out multipliers where you got them at, where you think they're at, calling numbers, calling breaks. Go any time you get the opportunity to judge, jump on it, build experience.
What about new flyers? Someone who maybe has racing pigeons or, is just interested in getting into this. Like, where would be like a good safe spot? There's so much online scamming and stuff like that. Where would be a good safe spot for getting rollers and getting into a club of some kind?
Yeah, so I've recommended these two things to any and everybody I can for years. The first thing is join the MBRC. They got a bi-monthly bulletin they put out that has fly reports. It has pictures of loft visits, medication, how to train your birds, different articles. It's just a must have if you have any intention on competing with rollers in the United States. Get a membership with the MBRC. That's the first thing. And if you're looking to buy rollers, I wouldn't suggest going anybody that's advertising. I just wouldn't. Anybody that's advertising birds for sale, I wouldn't mess with them. I will go and I would recommend this to anybody starting out or looking for new family possibly. Go to the master flyer list. Start at the top. Don Olette's at the top. He's the Triple Crown winner. He's won the MBRC Championship Fly. He's won the 20 bird and the 11 bird both, and he's won the World Cup. And he's at the top of the accumulated master flyer points. He's what I would call a grand master. They got a master flyer award program. It takes 750 points to accumulate, and once you get that, the next level you have to double that, get 1,500 points. At 1,500 points, you get a lifetime achievement award, which I think that's deserving of a grand master because you got both of them. Don, I think he's almost got his third one if he hadn't already got his third.
Wow.
This guy flies some serious competition birds. So I would start there and I would just go down and see, I'd find out all I could about that family of pigeons. Do I think that family of pigeons would work well with me? And I would give them a try. You got Mark Ritter out there, a four-time national champion that flies, a form of Don Olette's family of pigeons, and he's done quite well with them. Several other people have. So that's where I would start at, top of the master flyer list, go down, and also what part of the United States you live in, where you maybe can check out some of these master flyers, go to their house and watch their birds fly. Maybe get in on a competition day or something where they got them set as best as they can get them for that day. That's what I would recommend.
That's good advice. Is that list on like the NBRC website or is it in their quarterly or
Yeah.
something?
Oh, yeah. MBRC.us,
Okay.
Master Flyer Ranking. And anything you want to hit on the MBRC and check it out, MBRC.us auction. They have auction birds on there. We just finished up with an auction for our friends in California. They have them every 2 weeks as an auction. That's another good source for you. Looking for birds, you can get some pretty quality birds from these auctions, and it helps the regions when they're going into their competitions and driving a judge at round, flying a judge in. That's where these monies go to from these auctions, is to help support other flyers.
Oh, that's smart. Yeah, that's a win-win right there.
Well, yeah, we do them every 2 weeks, and they last for 2 weeks. The auctions do. And each region, or several regions, they call it in and get on a schedule, and they put it in there. And we got guys from all over the United States, top flyers, donates birds to these auctions. I'm telling you, MBRC is the way to go. It's a must have if you're going to fly roller pigeons in the United States.
Well, it sounds like it has a lot of good resources too. So I mean, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, get in a good local club if you got one. Get in them local flies where you're able to, fly. If they have a local fly once a month or however often, just get in there all you can.
I want to thank you for coming on, Kevin, and talking with us and breaking down, the competition side of flying Birmingham rollers. And, that's great advice too for new starters. But thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the All About Pigeons podcast. Please help the pigeon hobby by telling your fellow club members or other pigeon friends about the podcast, and make sure to leave a good review or at least a 5-star for the podcast wherever you listen. If you have a topic or a person you want to hear more about on the podcast, or if you yourself would like to be a guest, just send an email to allaboutpigeonspodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.